Schwarz?
Schwarz, yeah.
Schwarz.
It means black.
It does?
Yeah.
Textile designer, very experienced textile designer, exhibiting in the Knit and Stitch show this week, the next 4 days. So if my students are coming to the Knit and Stitch, so they'll be able to follow this up and have a look at your bigger work. Tilleke will take you through it all, and then please feel free to ask questions about any details, techniques, processes that Tilleke's gone through doing this work. I'm going to turn off these lights so you can see the screen better. So please
but you can just speak up. You don't need to wait till the end, because it's easier for me when you speak up, and I can, when we have still the picture you have a question about. But so you just interrupt and speak up, and if it's
What's
too
your
much,
name again? Sorry.
Pardon?
What's your first name? Sorry.
Tilleke.
Tilleke.
It comes from Matilda, means small Matilda, but it was a long time ago. So,
try to find the back lights. Oh, here's a few more. Well done.
Marvelous. You don't need. Maybe you can have a tiny bit of light in the back, but not in the front.
That's it. Cool.
And this is maybe better this off and that on.
Yeah, is that enough?
Yeah, that's good.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think
Then I clear?
then I can see who's misbehaving.
They're all adults, all grown up. They should all behave.
Oh, I've never behaved in class, so I completely understand.
Do you want me to stay and help you go through the slides?
I think I'll manage, but it will be a bit strange, because sometimes I sit and I need to press the button quite often, because I do tell everything in pictures. So if it's about my inspiration, I have pictures of that. So it'll be a lot of going back and forth.
Well, I'll press buttons.
Pardon?
I'll press your buttons for you here. So.
Oh my goodness. Now, well, we go now to the next picture. You've seen this by now. I'll tell a bit about everything, about my life, how I live, and a bit about what I make, and a bit about techniques and inspiration. Well, inspiration is very simple. I use anything that comes along, and you'll see what I mean by this. Just anything. Well, the talk is called Maps of Modern Life, and this is from my home village. It was the Tour Giro Italia, if you've heard of that. Bikers will know.
Where are you from?
Netherlands.
Oh,
You can hear by my accent, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah. Next one. Hey, I missed one. One more.
Did you? No?
Yes.
Is it?
That's strange.
One. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back.
This is the first. Second. Oh no, this is third. Sorry. Well, it's about my art. I make kind of pieces for the wall that I call kind of art. Well, it's up to you to decide if it's really art. Next one. And this is about me. This is 1969 when I got married. And you can see for the fashion students it's really 1969. It's mini skirts, and I had my hair up and my glasses like Nana Mouskouri. I don't know if you know that artist. And the glasses are now popular again. But I have a different prescription, so I don't have them anymore. I'm born in '46. I went to art school, and I went to another art school for adults, where you could come in and get whenever you like. So that would be, I don't know if you're used to that. It's an art school where you just come in and follow classes you like. You don't get a degree over there, but you can do a lot. I did a lot of model drawing over there. So it was, for me, it was a wonderful art school. And I tell also a bit about what interests me and how I started, but that will all come later. Next one. Oh, this is what I'm going to talk about. Oh, you can read. It's about inspiration and meaning. I think meaning is always important in a work. It's different, of course, depending for you, some of you, because it depends very much on what you are making it for. Like, what I do is not useful. If you're doing fashion or so, you do useful things. But art is not useful, but I like it to have some meaning. Just not just to be decorative. That's not my cup of tea. And I tell a bit about material and technique, and I include always a few detours. Next one. And I'll show a bit what's typical of my embroidery. I don't know if you've ever heard of my work before, but it's almost like finely stitched graffiti. Graffiti, how do you pronounce it? Graffiti. Yeah, and I include all kinds of things, pieces of cloth. Sometimes I cheat, like the Pink Panther, I didn't stitch myself, I bought it and stitched it in. And I put in pieces of cloth and traditional designs, and all kinds of things. Next one. This is a whole piece. You just saw a detail. And what's also typical of my work, I put in a lot of text. There's a mixture of images and text, actually. Next. These are some of the texts. They're all couchstone. There are all kinds of ways of doing lettering, but this is all by couching. I don't know if you know what couching is. I'll show it later, because it's just very basic. You have just shaping what you want to do with one thread and stitch and use another thread for attaching your shape to the background. Next one. That's a detail. The red thread is very beautiful Japanese thread. It's all couched down with lots of tiny stitches. All done by hand. Next one. That's another detail. Next. And this is a traditional Chinese design. It's a Chinese cat. And when you see more work, you'll notice that I have a cat in almost all my works.
Yay.
Because I strongly...
Cat love is here.
Well, sometimes when I teach a workshop, I say when you run out of ideas, you can always add a cat. And people do, and especially when I said cats are an extra bonus, they went really for cats. So that was marvelous. So maybe a good idea for here too. Next one. This is how I found the title of this work. This work is, the whole piece is called Playground. And you see this text, Plats för lek, that's Swedish for playground. And I liked it because if you would think it would be Dutch, it would be something like a leaking place. That's what I liked about it. So I used that title for my work. Next one. There you can say Plats för lek, that's the same text. So that's how I go about it. I see things that intrigue me and I'll put it in my work. And like the bird is a traditional design, and that's how it goes. Next. And this is fish. The fish was a bit cold, so he said bird. The fish I bought, actually I didn't do it myself. And behind the fish is a part of a lion. Pardon?
Sorry, what is it? A lion. Oh.
A lion, yes. It's a big cat, more or less. Okay, next one. This is another detail. This flower and next. This is the whole piece again. So this is called Playground. Next. Well, there's always a big discussion, especially I think in the craft world, if it's art, embroidery, or craft, or whatever, what you call it. I'm not so interested in naming. I would call it mark making, or just art. And embroidery is a technique, but yeah, it's like you could call it embroidery too, like when you say a painting is not art, but it's an oil painting. It would be similar. So, next one. This is about material stitches. What you see is the back of a piece of embroidery, not by me, but the back can be pretty too. Next one. My basic material is fine linen, 50 count, so it's 50 threads to an inch. And sometimes I dye it. I dye usually with Procyon dyes. I'm not a very skilled dyer, I usually go by prescription. And I do a light dye and then I over dye several times. I dye different from what you learn. I dye in a small pan, and that means that on all the creases, it doesn't have so much dye, so I need to over dye to have some color over there. And that's why most of my work, the cloth is not evenly dyed, and I think of it as it gives the liveliness to it. So that's why I do it. But of course, if you want a beautifully solid dye, you should do it differently. But that you learn over here, I suppose. Okay, this is a part of my thread collection. I have lots of threads. I buy them all the time. Probably also the coming days at the knit and stitch. And I have them all organized on color. I think I have over 2,000 colors now. And I'm a strong believer of organizing your material, because it's an expensive material and because you have an overview of the colors you have. I see often people in workshop with little baskets and they have an all mixture of threads, but I couldn't work like that. I'd have to be organized. Next one. See, these are a few of my reds. And I use all kind of brands to mixture of all kinds. I don't go by a certain brand, I think, yeah. This is a mixture of DMC and all other kinds. Next, this is how it's stored. In all these drawers, you saw one of the drawers. In the wood, it's all drawers. And my free advice is design as well as you can, but it makes sense to organize your material. Same with paint, if you're a painter. Treat it well. If you have expensive paint, it's really worthwhile taking care of it. Okay, next. Here are a few of my threads on the back, and it's a bit about stitches. I mostly do my work with only 2 stitches, not with your 1,000 stitches book. You can do that, of course, but I don't bother much. I do most with cross stitch and couching, and a few chain stitches, or, well, I sometimes make up stitch. They probably have a name, but I don't know. I just do things. Next one. These are cross stitch, and the flower is based on a counter thread pattern by Gerda Bengtsson from Denmark. She does lovely flower patterns. So that's why I did that. And on the back is cross stitch.
Does that want me to go back?
Yeah, these lines. That's by a friend of mine. She has a strange habit of using her color. She feels that she should use color very democratic. So if she has 60 colors, she uses one thread at a time, and then from every skein 1 thread, and then starts all over. That's why you see this mixture of colors. I think it's very interesting to go about that like that. Well, next one. This is actually a charted pattern for cross stitch, and that cat has appeared in many of my works. So you can, I don't know if you ever done cross stitch and counted the threads, then you can work by these kind of patterns.
Is that a design you've made?
No, I didn't make, no, I have several books on sampler designs and other designs, and I use traditional designs by the book. Often I copy from the book and I enlarge it, or scan it and enlarge it, because the patterns are often so small it's hard to see them and hard to count. So if you enlarge it, it's easier. Next one. And this is, this is about traditional design. I love traditional designs. On the back are some traditional designs. I haven't made them, I found them somewhere. And I started very traditional. Next one. This is one of my very early pieces in '76. It's more or less a traditional sampler. The picture is not so good. It's because it was a slide and then digitized and so on. It's an old one. But this is started as a traditional sampler with a tree of life in the middle and a border around it. And then I added some other things. On the bottom you'll see all kind of cats from Peru. because it needs to have cats. But after a few of these samplers, I figured I should do a bit more creative. Next one. This is another sampler in 80. This is a mixture of traditional designs. Very simple, just all squares. And the only thing I added was the color and the combination. Designs come from all over the world. But I had an art training, and it's rather strange to do all these charted designs if you have an art training, not to do anything on your own. So that's where I went. So it's changed after this one. Next one. Oh, that's another detail. You can see the design. Next. This is about moose and deer in my work, because in many traditional samplers you find deer. It used to be very popular, and there's a reason for it. And I'll show you the reason. So this is a work called Moose in the Sunset, and the bluish, I think it's deer or a similar animal, it's based on a very old pattern, and you find it all over Europe. Next one. See this one, this animal. The only thing what is not so common is I did the deer and then I added a kind of a shadow line to have it stand out a bit more with the brownish color. Next one. See, this is the pattern of the deer. You find it all over Europe. My deer got a bit distorted because it's difficult to count your stitches if the cloth is very fine. And I usually lose track. So that's why it got a bit distorted, but I don't care. And this is called a Siebmacher deer. Siebmacher was one of the first book printers who printed a book with designs for embroidery. For embroidery. Oh, there's plenty of chairs. Okay. Designed for embroidery. And before that time, people copied from one sampler to another because they felt that printing books was so expensive. It made more sense to spend a couple of days copying in stitch the embroidery. But this was a famous booklet by Mr. Siebmacher from Germany. And that was 1601. And after that there were patterns for samplers. Okay, next one. Here are some more deer. And also some birdies. All traditional. Next one. And this is the whole piece. You can see in the corner, that's what you just saw. But it's quite a while ago, it's 1969. The old piece, most of the old pieces you won't see at the Knitting and Stitching show. I only show the recent pieces. Next one. This is, couching is my favorite stitch. And it's just simple. You put on threads on your cloth and you stitch them down with fine stitches. That's what I've done here, the yellow part. And while stitching them down, you can vary in colors and can have all kinds of results. Next one. This is again about couching, so you can see what it is. Very simple. You could name it maybe drawing with the needle. And you can add extra lines and you can add more colors. And this text you can shape it very well with the little stitches. Next one. This is also couched down. It's very beautiful Japanese thread. Next. This is also couching, the blue on the white. But by changing the colors and the thickness of the thread, you can have very different results. So that's what I wanted to show here. This is quite large, you can see by the cloth. Next one. This is also couched down. I bought threads in Turkey and I thought I had the most wonderful silk. But it was horrible to stitch with. It probably was not real silk, and I decided to just couch it down because I couldn't work with it. Next one. Well, this is about my start. Actually, at art school, I did mostly drawing and mixed media on paper, and I showed the embroideries I did at home, and then I had very good teachers who said to me, "Why don't you stitch like you draw?" Because my stitching was quite traditional and my drawing was more contemporary. And it took me a while, but then I could deal with it. But I always find it a very useful advice. Next one. Here it's changing a little bit. It's 1988. See another cat down there? Next. Are you fine in the corner?
Yeah.
You want a chair?
Well, I've got a close-up view here, you see.
Oh yes, you want a chair?
No, I'm fine, thank you very much.
The images you see in top middle are traditional designs. They blend in more or less with the background. They're peacocks and camels from the old DMC patterns. Next one. This is called Beware of Embroidery. It has been published a lot because magazines seem to enjoy yellow. So good advice for you. If you want to be in a magazine, try to do something with a lot of yellow in it, bright yellow. They love it. And there's a lot of inspiration in it. For instance, you see on the top right, brown sauce. That's inspiration from the UK, because I went to an embroidery event, and then in the morning breakfast, they had these packages and it said brown sauce, and we don't have that in Holland. And I never tried it out. It didn't seem like something would be edible, but I found it rather strange. You see, I think of sauce as a certain flavor, like tomato sauce. And brown sauce, what does it taste like? I don't know. So I didn't try it. I find it strange. Well, there's lots of other things, but I won't bother all to explain everything. On the top left is sweet and low, and that's a sweetener for your coffee. From, I think, American it is. Yeah. Okay, next one. That's the detail. This is the traditional boat in black, and the white faces with cloth, old cloth. And some ladybirds, and well, roses, all kind of things. Next one. That's the top of the face. The piece is called Beware of Embroidery. I'm quite proud of the title. So. Any questions? You can ask this question whenever you feel like.
Is the title of this based on your obsession with what your work is called?
Of it's based with my obsession?
Based on your obsession of, beware of embroidery, like it will become your whole life, like it has done yours.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I usually have a hard time thinking of titles. Usually do that afterwards. But yeah. I thought of it more like beware of the dog and then beware of the embroidery.
Beware of the dark.
The dog. Yes, sorry about
right,
that.
Yeah.
So that was more of the idea that you can also have, I would say, special text and special content even with embroidery.
I think it could be seen as that though, beware of embroidery in a different way.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I always like when people see different things in it than I put in it. It's
That's
really
what art's
fun.
about, yeah.
And at my show, I sometimes listen to people explaining to one another what it's about. I love that.
About your work.
Yeah.
So you've got audience coming in, explaining to each other what it's about.
Yeah, and how it's done. They all explain what machine should be used, and I don't use machines, so I love that. Yeah.
How long does it take for you to do these things?
Forever.
Yeah, if you do it by hand.
It takes 4 or 5 months. I don't stitch whole days, just an hour here and there.
How big is it?
Like this. Maybe 50 to 60 centimeters, like that. It's not very big.
To get all that.
Yeah, because it's very fine cloth.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Here's another detail. Next. This is the tree of life. That's my kind of tree of life, a bit different. And it has all kind of text of participating in an exhibition in the UK. There used to be Art of the Stitch, it's not there anymore. And you could apply with slides and then try to get in it. It was kind of an important exhibition at that time. And I got kind of fed up with the instructions, so they had all these things like label your slides, and the work should arrive between certain dates. But that's difficult. When you send it from Holland and you don't want to spend an awful lot of money, you can't plan precisely when it will arrive, so it annoyed me. And they even said all entries should include a calico bag, that's top left. And I was really intrigued what it was, why that was. Because I send my work in a crate. You have to do it if you do international transport. It doesn't go in just a little bag. It doesn't arrive that way. So I had it crated, and I was emailing them, why do you need a calico bag? And their idea was, when planning the exhibition, people would come in, unwrap their piece, put all the plastic and paper in the bag, and they would store it like the packing material like that. But of course it didn't work for my crate. But the most interesting thing came, and this is a true story, a gossip about the Bordeaux Guild a long time ago. They put all these calico bags in a cellar to store them there, and they had water problems in the cellar. So everything was getting filthy and wet and so, and then they decided to wash all these calico bags. But after washing, they couldn't see whose bag it was, and they wanted to send the right bag to the right person. So I got a wonderful letter explaining that they sent me a bag, but if I wasn't pleased with what calico bag I received, I could complain and they would look after my bag. I don't know how they would do it, but sometimes. Well, that text of that letter I've used in another piece because I strongly believe in all these crazy texts in my work. Next one. Oh yeah, this is also inspiration from a holiday in Israel. My sister lives there, and we did a trip through the desert in the Negev, and you see signs like this, and it makes you really feel at home. It's a holiday sign, kind of. It's still there, because this picture I've made a lot later than the work. Next one. Here on top, this text I've used on top of this part of the Tree of Life. Oh yeah, and that's another one. Insurance is the responsibility of the artist. I don't agree either, but that's why I put it in my work. But the nice thing in the UK is they have a sense of humor, so it got in the show anyway, with all the comments.
Do you always do your text in English?
Yes. That's especially for you, but it doesn't communicate when I do it in Dutch. And exhibits often outside Holland, and then it has to be English. Sometimes I do little bits in other languages, especially if I know I go to that place. I have one piece I did a bit of Welsh in it because I was exhibiting at Harrogate in north of Wales. But I didn't finish the piece in time, so it never came there. Well,
I moved on, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. Oh, yeah, maybe go back.
Go back one?
Yeah. Yeah, these are a few details so you can see the stitching. Next one.
In Holland, do they understand like your humour? Like, you know how you said like when you come to Britain, like British people like get the humour of it. Do they understand?
Well,
like,
they might not understand everything I put in. Sometimes I don't even know myself anymore. But they certainly understand, because in the gallery I can see there are often laughing people in my gallery. And I speak up to them, why they laugh at my work and so on. It's a nice conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in general they catch some of the things. And if they don't catch everything, I don't mind. But then they see other things they find funny that I don't find funny. So that's always, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting what people see. Next one. That's the whole piece again. I do often the whole piece afterwards so you don't lose track completely by all the details.
Is that the same size again that you did?
Yeah, they're all more or less the same size. Not quite. So all my crates from my work are different. But my husband makes them and he hates that I always do different sizes. So he says, why don't you stick to 2 or 3 sizes, small, medium, large, like that.
Do you frame them?
Yes. And when it's finished, I stretch them. I hate that job, but it needs to be done. And then I can have it in a detachable frame. And it's even behind perspex for protection, because everybody goes with a finger to feel it's real. And too many fingers I can't have. So that's why. You'll see.
Not when you're using white.
Pardon?
Not when you're using white,
No,
it ends up ruby brown, won't it?
The same with other colors, because after a while it gets filthy. Next one. This is called mark making. Here trying to do a bit different composition, not scattered all over. The moment I'm working at getting it more empty, because I feel that it shouldn't be all cluttered. I think I have a few details of this one too. That's one of my, that's a horse, kind of. It's covered with a cloth, like a medieval horse. And I had a postcard of that and I copied it directly on cloth. So it's a bit distorted again. And the text is from around 2000, when we were very much into the millennium problems with the computer. So the text is from how to get your computer millennium proof. I don't know if you remember, but we were quite worried about that. But nothing happened. Well, at least
Storm in a teacup, wasn't it?
Fine?
It was a bit of a storm in a
Yeah,
teacup.
we made a big deal out of that. And well, this is some of the program you needed to make it millennium proof.
Is the body of the whole embroidered or is it pliqué?
The white is embroidered, yes.
So it's embroidered?
Yes, but what I did, therefore it looks strange. I think I first had cross stitch and I think it didn't stand out enough. So I took really thick thread and pull it underneath the cross stitch to have it lifted.
Do you ever unpick your work or do you just...
Sometimes, yes. When the composition is not right, I sometimes have to unpick it. I hate that, but yeah. If a composition is not right, I think it stays nagging in the back of your head, so you better deal with it. But I don't always need to unpick, because I can always cover it with a piece of cloth and do something on top. Or do something with the colors, but I have works where I unpicked quite a bit. Very inefficient. So, but I don't plan, and the problem is if you don't plan, you end up unpicking. And if you plan, you probably don't need to. But I don't like to plan. Next one. That's another detail. In the middle of the figure you see tiny bits of lace. That's how I filled it out. Next one. These are some text. There were notes from a lecture I went to. I couldn't understand the man, but I made notes for my next work. So, yeah, I was a guy with a multimedia presentation 10 years ago, and he was running back and forth the screen and got completely distracted. So I just put down these words. So that's it. Next one. That's another detail. And next one. That's the whole piece again. Oh no, this is marking. The other detail is from a piece that's probably still to come. Because what you saw before doesn't fit in here. I have to look at that. Sorry. This is called What You See is What You Get. famous expression you know from the computer. And it's again, this cloth has been dyed, and you can see it's not evenly dyed, but it has some texture. Not really texture you call it, but it has some liveliness, I think. Next one. And there's a strange detail. The part covered with yellow started out as a cloth tea bag that I folded in. And the text are just things I pick up. Next one. And it's another detail. On top you see a stamp from Austria. It's a real stitch stamp that you can use on your postage. I ordered it at the Austrian post office. Next one. That's a cat. One of the many. For the stitchers, these are not French knots, what you see. You know, and anybody knows what French knots are? Oh, you do. Well, what I do instead of French knots, because I think it's too complicated, I do tiny cross stitches with thick thread and very tiny stitches. And then it looks almost like French knots. So, maybe. Next one. That's another detail. It's being a bit ironic. Next one. Here you can see how I use images from the newspaper. On the right it's a cutting from a magazine or newspaper, and on the left is my translation. And some notes that I use partly. Next one. See, that's the detail of the translation. Next one. This is the whole piece again. It's terrible to couch it all down. It's a lot of work, but I did it when we were on holiday in Egypt, next to the swimming pool. And every day I did 3 or 4 threads. So after Egypt I had this finished. Next one. This is called Free Recovery. This piece is in the knitting and stitching show, and it's more empty. That's what I prefer at the moment. And the free recovery refers to the signs you have on the road sometimes. I'll have a sign a little on. Next one. This is your sign. And I think it's very special because it expects a lot of trust in government. People just go to the side of the road and wait till they get help. I hope it works. We don't have that. Next one. See, this is where I put in free recovery. And I put in a little fan for... pardon?
Ambulance.
Yeah, an ambulance. Yeah, I was looking for the word. But yeah, it's this ambulance I bought somewhere. And it's just stitched it in. Next one. That's another detail. Here you can see what you can do with couching. Traditional with couching, you use very fine threads to couch down your fancy threads, probably golden threads. But if you do the other way around, use thick threads to couch down fine threads, you get a completely different result. And I find that interesting too. That's what I did with the white stuff on the bottom right. Next, it's another detail. Next. Yeah, this I picked up from a conversation. I think we were drinking coffee somewhere and heard people saying that to one another. Sometimes we twit, and I'm not that. And this is from our stay in a bed and breakfast. We got always a little note telling us what time to arrive at the breakfast, because they didn't have room for everybody in the space. And so this is literally the text of the little note, only it was signed by Mr. Bola, but I got so fed up with Mr. Bola that I called him Tom Bola. But don't tell him, it's a bed and breakfast in Oxford. Yeah. Next one, this is the whole piece. Next. Yeah, this is about finding ideas. Everywhere, on your doorstep even. It's just a piece of pavement. And I strongly believe anything goes. And you can use everything for your inspiration. Next one. Like, for instance, this from Kentucky Fried Chicken. I found it on the internet. But I used the inspiration from Kentucky Fried Chicken in my piece that I did mostly in America. See, I don't know if it comes, yeah, I think it comes after this. Yeah, you can see on the top left is what we ate at Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was all on the bill. The potato wedges and chicken and everything. So that's how you can use anything. And then the centerpiece is inspired by the top of a coffee cup. I was intrigued by what they put on it in America. They do it too nowadays, and in Holland too. You're warned that it's hot and, well, you should drink in the chair and stuff like that. It's really amazing. So, next one. That's the detail of the coffee cup. Next. And this is inspiration from mostly Australia. Text I found. You want a sip of water?
No, it's all right.
Yeah, I've got some in, but
It does go over, she might be outside.
I'm intrigued by all these warnings. So, like the first text is about not jumping from the vessel, and the second is about the Museum of Art in Sydney. They had an installation of pictures of. Does this mean anything?
No, it could be anything. It sounds like maintenance.
Okay, that's fine. Well, they had the installation of pictures of Aboriginals, and they had a big sign informing that information for Aboriginals, because it meant something for them. And I was intrigued by the way they phrased it, because I could see them having all meetings on how to deal with it and not hurt the feelings of the Aboriginals, because that's quite an issue in Australia. And the next room had an installation with a few goldfish, and of course the animal movement had replaced, so they had an all text about how they took care of the fish. And I think it's very typical for modern society, all these warnings and all these things. It's not really a sign of interest. They just are afraid that they need to pay for something or get into problems or whatever. Next one. Oh, here's the menu of Kentucky Fried Chicken on the left. And I also loved the idea that they had made a difference between dining in and dining out. Dining in is on these plastic chairs, and dining out is in your car. Because there was a... And dining in my country means kind of a fancy dinner, different from eating. So I couldn't see the dining part on these plastic chairs. But that's the way they put it. Next one. And there's a few other details. I've had quite a discussion of if this is Beavis or Butthead. I think Butthead, yeah. I bought that one and I gave him a few wings. Next one. There's one of the cats. It's done with multicolored thread. And I don't like mayo and mustard. That's why I put it in. Next one.
How big is that?
They're all about, I think, 60 to...
Something like that.
No, smaller.
The little ones.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at that detail, it's very tiny.
Yes. After this, I'll show you work in progress. You have an idea what side I stitch. It's quite tiny stitching. So people, when they hear it by hand, most people are put off. They think it's too much work. Well, I don't mind that because I stitch myself. I don't mind it. But if you like to make something like that, you need to invest a bit of time. Or be very clever, have people working for you. An idea too. Next one. Well, this is the part 2 of Anything Goes. And it's your royal family. That was with the royal wedding. There's a booklet on how to knit the royal family. I don't know if you see that. I love it, especially the stitched corgis, corgi dogs, so what do you call them?
Corgi.
Corgi, yeah, I love that. And in Holland they now copied the idea, so there's also a booklet on how to knit our royal family. Well,
Cookies are big soon.
oh,
They're really good.
I like it.
I like all the blush cheeks and everything.
Mm.
Looks like they've been drawn on.
Yeah. And again, and Elizabeth is always in these pastel colors, bluish or pinkish or greenish, strange colors she wears always. But I love it. Next one. Well, my major sources, as you know by now, are the textile tradition, cats, daily life, and the media. Because I find a lot in newspapers and on the internet. And I collect anything that somehow intrigues me. The cartoon is I haven't made, but I like it a lot. That's why I have it in. Next one. That's why I use all these texts out of context. I think then they tell a bit more about what society we're in. Next one. Well, that's how I look at it. And I think my main inspiration is from pop art and graffiti and samplers. Pop art, it was when I was, I think, 17 or 18, there was the first major pop art exhibition in Holland, in The Hague. And went for a couple of hours by train to The Hague in order to see it. And I was very impressed by it. I remember a work by Andy Warhol. He made silkscreen prints of the Mona Lisa. You know the Mona Lisa?
Yeah.
And he did about 30 silkscreen prints, and then it had this text with it, 30 is better than 1. And I loved that. And there was a piano taken apart and sprayed yellow and stuff like that. At that time it was quite refreshing and new, and that really was an inspiration for me. Same with graffiti, and also with samplers. Some people call it a contemporary sampler, contemporary folk art or whatever. I don't mind as long as I can get access to the exhibition, I would say. Next one. I love tradition, and here's an example. Next one. These are stitched cloths, I think mostly from Morocco and neighboring countries. Turkey maybe. This is our tradition of delftwear. You might have known that, seen that before. And there's another, next one. This is also a famous Dutch tradition with the football. I don't know if you see them all turn up orange. It's a terrible sight. I found on a small island there was a small house, and the roof was covered with all tennis shoes, like you see here on the back, and all sprayed orange.
It's a roof.
A roof. Yeah. They found them. They found all the tennis shoes on the beach, and because it was the football period, they thought of spraying them orange, and they liked that. And this, the orange wig is how people dress up. That was absolutely silly.
Very Dutch though.
Yeah, next one. This is traditional sampler, school sampler kind of. Not very old, around 1900. Next one. And samplers were made to mark the linen. That's why you need to know the lettering. You hardly need to know how to read and write in that era. You only need to know how to put your initials on your linen wear. Next one. This is a detail from a Frisian sampler, a sampler from the north of Holland. They do very special lettering with the decorations, the pictures around it. Next one. And I use text like this also in my work. This is from a letter from one of the famous museums that has a sampler collection. Fitzwilliam Museum has a beautiful sampler collection, and I had this idea of exhibiting there together with their traditional collection. But the curator thought it wasn't such a great idea, but being English, she phrased it very polite, so she sort of talked around the subject and explaining to me that the samplers had changed in their use and so on. Well, I already knew and wasn't asking for that, but it was probably her way of saying no. We are more blunt, we just say no when we mean no. And here's a bit different. You might get a no by no answer or whatever. Next one. This is the whole piece. Again with a cat. Am I on schedule? Yeah, more. Next one. This is a kind of samplers I like a lot. They're from Germany, and they're from the Vier Landen area. And they make very complicated patterns. You have to count very precise and do it very precise in order to have the full pleasure of the beautiful design. And I sometimes copy a design like that in my work, but I always lose track, so it's a bit less beautiful. Next one. See, here's one of the designs, and I get so bored with all this counting, what you have to do. So I had a few flowers fading and stuff like that. So, but there's also a piece. Next one. It's about cats. On the right are male cats. Pardon?
I just went one too far.
Oh no, it's okay. Next, I think now there will be a couple of cats. Next one. This is my own cat. It's called Fosje 2 because Fosje 1 died in a car accident. And it's a Norwegian forest cat.
What does Fosje mean?
Pardon?
What does Fosje mean?
Fosje means fox. My husband doesn't agree that I call it fox, but well, I decided his name. This would be. But he listens best to just push. Actually listen to anything if there's food involved. And this is what he does when he enjoys himself. And they have a beautiful fur, double fur. She's completely happy here. Next one.
Big.
She. Actually, for she's a she. Well, cats can be stupid. It's not my cat, of course. But people often send me pictures, and if I like them, they go in. Next one. This is a picture I took in Italy on the 4th of October. In Assisi, we visited the cathedral over there. And this I show often to my cat because this cat eats spaghetti. And my cat is too spoiled for that.
It's a target cat.
Yes, it's really, I made the picture, yes, it's beautiful. Yeah, isn't it amazing? And what I like about it, a picture like this also tells a story. It's not just a cat, but you can see it's Italy and it's not a spoiled cat, it's just a wild cat probably, and some old ladies bring food for the cat. So I love this picture. Next one. This is, for me it's like a cat. It's the fire, the water for for the fire brigade in Israel. I see, once you get into the cat mood, you see cats everywhere. Next one. This is one of my stitch cats. Next. There's another cat. Next. Oh yeah, this cat just swallowed a peacock. Next. There's another cat. And there's another one. Next. Oh yeah, this is a calico cat. You see it, it swallowed a little bird. And this is more inspired by Foshi because of the big tail. Foshi also has a big tail. And in the winter my cat gets like a little lion. It's kind of a color of all hair. Fantastic. Next one. This is a bit about dogs. Because I know dogs are lovely too. This is the dog Betsy. Do you know Jane King?
Jane King.
Jane King, yes, of the Knitting and Stitching Show in the past, one of the directors.
No, I don't know.
Andrew Salmon and Jane King. Well, Jane King had a French bulldog. She sent me this picture because they dressed him up for Christmas. Because she had a bulldog at the office and Andrew didn't think that wouldn't look professional enough. It was really funny.
Patient dog.
Yeah, and this is a Dutch style dog, kind of. And there's another dog coming in. Yeah, it's by Peter Clark, a collage. I love the way he did the collage of the dog. Yeah. Next one. This is a traditional dog in Biedermeier style. Next one. Well, dogs can be quite a nuisance, so you better take a cat. I collect, by the way, I collect dog signs. They show only a few because I have about 60 different ones from different countries. Next one. See, these a few more. But it's not, has nothing to do with my embroidery, but it's a way of looking at things around you. So to me it all makes sense. And now we go back to serious business. A bit about my inspiration. I think personal stories can also inspire. This is my niece getting a little brother. He's a very special girl, I think, with the red hair and the green eyes. Next one. And this is about my personal story. In the middle, you see a detail in a while, is a picture of my brains, because I got a small brain attack and then they make a scan of your brains. And I was really intrigued by the scan of your brains. So I asked if I could get a CD with the pictures, and I paid 10 euros and I could get that. But the strange thing is when you have a scan of your head, you only see the bony parts, so it looks like your ears go up. You'll see it better on the detail. And so I put it in, see here on this detail. And the text is about brain attacks and everything. And the first, oh no, that was a previous cat, Urgje.
What do you mean by brain attack?
Brain attack or...
Headache?
You've said your stroke.
It's like a stroke.
Oh.
A small stroke, yeah.
Okay.
You say you always stroke, not brain?
Yeah, you've written a
stroke. Well, and what here, you can see here in the, below the picture of my brains is also a cat called Urgje. And he's a pumpkin, and there are two angels on the side because he passed away in that period. But the angel on the right, I stitched when I couldn't quite control my movements, just after the stroke. I'm doing a bit better now, but it's a strange experience because I didn't know what happened. So I drove by car to my work, which is absolutely dangerous when you have done that. But once you don't know what's going on, you just say, well, I don't have my best day, and let's go and start doing something.
Looks like an angel cat. You've got a tail.
Pardon?
Looks like an angel cat because it's got a tail. So
Oh.
even if you didn't mean to do that, it kind of looks like a cat.
Oh, I don't know about angel cats. I kind
It kind of looks like it's because it's tail. That's what I mean. Like, you look at art and you see like different things.
Yeah.
You really didn't need to do it.
Next one. That's just the elephant on board. Just some little things. But I must say, to most of the things you see are little stories, but it's a bit much to tell about all the stories behind all the images. So skip that. These are too detailed of this work. This is the whole piece again. Next one. This is called On Color. Next one.
Is that the dyeing? You've got pink in the middle. Have you dyed that in there?
Tie-dye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next one. Sometimes I do a little few flowers. This is my pencil sharpener, by the way. Pencil sharpeners can inspire too. And mind the gap is from here, in UK. Next one. Next one. There's the whole piece. Next one. This is called rice.
They're getting more complex, aren't they?
Yeah, but these are earlier pieces actually. They're more filled up. I prefer the more empty. You'll see a few more empty pieces near the end. And then what you see here, my name, that's my... That's my name. And since everything is hand stitched, I have a signature that's machine stitched. I had it done and I stitched that in. Next one. There's the cat. Next. Here's the whole piece with this peacock eating cat. Next one. Next. 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 Now the text below is from a letter to the editor of the Embroidery Guild, because when Polly Leonard, who does nowadays Selvage, she was editor-in-chief of Embroidery Guild and she wanted to improve the magazine and renew it, but not all the readers appreciated it. So she wrote a letter like that. Kind of folly of grandeur is hitting the Embroidery Guild at the moment. Fantastic. Next one, this is the whole piece. Next one. Well, I use text for all kinds of reasons. For the meaning, the graphic quality, rhythm and the texture. On the back is from Egypt, you will recognize. Next one. These are some of the notes I collect. I collect in just cuttings and notes. I don't do sketchbooks, I must confess. But I collect all kinds of things. So I like this text like breaking news, suspect car being removed, I love that. This is, I think Matthew Harris sent it to me, about a tortoise who got lost. You know Matthew Harris? He's quite a well-known artist. He lives in Stroud. Oh,
No, you need to look it up.
yeah.
That's the name to look up.
Yeah, definitely. You know him?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Oh, Next one. And here I used the text and I added the tortoise to it. Next one. This I like too, disclaimers. So I often put disclaimers in my work. Next one. And this is found in the phone book of Iceland. Have you ever been to Iceland? They have all kinds of natural disasters like eruptions and thunderstorms and avalanches and I don't know what. And in their phone book in the beginning they have all kind of do's and don'ts when you're in such a situation. In their own language, which I can't understand, and in English. So I took the English part home, because they could deal with the Icelandic part anyway. And I love this text, and I mixed them up in my embroidery. Next one. Here, that's in my piece Always. It's also in the exhibition. Like keep your head up and swim and stuff like that. This is the whole piece called Always. With all these warnings. And it also said, always believe that you will be rescued. And I thought it was almost religious. So I put it on top left. Next one. It's a detail. And another detail.
All of that lettering is couched, all of it.
Yes. Yeah. You can see because I use different colors. Yeah, gosh, yeah. Yeah, if you don't know what to do, you stitch it. That's how it goes. Next one. This is also inspiration. In our local newspaper, it has every Saturday information on a nice walk you could do. And I like the lines of the walk, so I use the lines of this plan. Next one. See, here are some of those lines. Next. Here, so this is the whole piece again. Next. Well, I'm very fond of all these security measurements. I don't believe that it helps, but they do more crazy than ever. Next one. This piece is more or less about security. It's one of the few pieces that has a theme to them. It's called 100% checked. Next one. On the right it says see you in court. Next one. This is also couched on the blue thread. Next. Oh, this some security text and some text on black socks. That's useful. Next one. See, and this is part of the inspiration I used in this work. Next. You can see by the text, suspicious circumstance. Can you go back once more? If you see those doodles on the left, top left, and now go on, and that's translated into stitch in the middle. Next. And here I tried to do a rose, but it was again a lot of counting and didn't work out completely. Well, next one. Oh, this is the piece again. Next. And that's the detail. Oh, this is my signature. See. Next. See, that's how I buy the signatures. Next. This is my piece Purchase. About purring from cats and chasing. And also that relates to purchasing by. Next. Next. This is a car. My husband was complaining I never did cars in my work. So I needed to invest in marriage and I did a car. Next one. It's a bit distorted, but it's still kind of a sports car. Next one. Next. Here's again that's couching. And on the back is the back side of a tag, or a label on your clothing. Call it a tag or no?
Yeah, label.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Next one. That's the whole piece. Next. This is from another piece. Oh, that's the inspiration for it. It's called fisk. Fisk is Danish for fish, but it sounds stronger. That's why I prefer. And this fish eat a peacock. Next one, this is my bit of Welsh. It says I'm out of the office. From an email. Next one. A lot of different strange fish on the right. And there's a dodo, you know the dodo, the bird? Next one. You can see the stitching. Next. That's the whole piece. Next. Well, it's very easy to do and relaxing, I think. Next. See, that's how I stitched this piece in Egypt. Don't look at the feet. And it's fun to stitch, I think. Well, this very recent piece is called New Potatoes. It's the title of my exhibition. And people kept asking me in Dublin why, because new potatoes seems very important in Dublin or in Ireland. They all have childhood memories of looking forward to the new potatoes to come and enjoying them. Well, that wasn't the reason, but I like the word. Next one. Next. There's a tea bag. Next. Next. These are all details. Next.
It's interesting to see the scale because they're enormously big on the screen.
Yeah, but they're small.
Tiny, tiny wheel on the actual piece.
Yeah. This is called Domestic. It's also a quite recent piece. And you can see what's the inspiration. On the right is again a pencil sharpener, and on the left is a cleaning material for glass. Next. 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 I go over it a bit fast because otherwise they have to stay until 8 o'clock tonight. This is the house of Bin Laden from the newspaper. You might remember it. Next. This is the whole piece. Next. This Unfollow is one of my last pieces. See, it's also more empty. Next. There's a tea bag again. Next. Piece of lace. Next. Next. That's the whole piece. Next. And this is called Scratch. Next. Flowers and all kinds of techniques, partly applique, which I do more lately. I use more applique recently. Next. The animal I didn't do myself, I bought it. There's another cat, and it says cat installed. Next. Inspiration from my bathroom in Lithuania. Next. That's in this work. You can see it on the bottom right.
Do you always do one piece at a time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes already a lot of time, and I feel I have to finish first one and then do another one. Next one. This is the cover of my book, both sides, back and front, and it's for sale in the Knitting and Stitching Show. Next one. And thank you and goodbye. Next. Well, I can give more information. I can do here and I can do at the show too. Next. And have a safe trip home. That was fun.